to the Gaines family, to the Winston-Salem community, to the state of North Carolina, to those that participated in the CIAA as either basketball players, basketball coaches, or fans, to the coaches that have come here from around the country, to all those that I've not mentioned, it's a pleasure for me to be here with Mrs. Gaines and her family, as well as all of you. I don't know whether I was fortunate or unfortunate, but Coach Gaines and I talked Saturday, and then he was sent home. So for me, Monday was a very difficult day. But on Monday, I had the chance to sit back and reflect from 1961 to today's date on my fond memories of Coach Gaines. I came here with no suit, one pair of shoes, a shirt, a jar of water, a piece of pound cake, and a chicken sandwich. And I met Coach Gaines at the station. And thanks to Leon Whitley, I was afforded the opportunity to be at Winston-Salem and to play for Coach Gaines for 4 years. And coming in as a freshman in the period of the 60s, you had to be either exceptionally smart or exceptionally good. And Coach Gaines told me that I was both, and I just thought that I was average. Gaines to me was a teacher, a preacher, a coach, a father figure, a mentor, a friend, and even a father. Thanks to Coach Gaines, I was able to go to school and finish in 3.5 years instead of 4 years at Winston-Salem, to graduate and then to go to graduate school, and to graduate 3 years after undergraduate school, to find a job, and based on his advice, find a job that's going to be around for a long time. And I found a job that was around for a long time, and that's in the field of education. He also told me to reach back and do for others as others had done for me. He said, don't complain about what you see wrong, get up and do something about it. And thanks to him, I was able to move on both in the political circles and to remain married for 44 years. And a lot of that had to do with Mr. Gaines being my role model. For you see, we have a lot in common. His daughter, Lisa, my daughter's name is Lisa. Mr. Gaines drove a Mercury. I drove a Mercury. Mr. Gaines mentored and volunteered. I mentored and volunteered. The one thing we didn't have in common, though, I was a Baptist, and Mr. Gaines wasn't a Baptist. So I'll forgive him for that. But to me, again, Coach Gaines was more than just a basketball coach. He was a person that took young men and taught them about life. The athletes that are here, and I'm most certainly glad to see the basketball team from Winston-Salem, because hopefully you'll have that kind of relationship with your coach over time. 44 years is a short time span in God's mind, but in our mind, it's a long period of time. And I would hope that the ball players would be just as dedicated to the coach, to the school, to the state, to the city, as not only I was, but all of the ball players that came along during the time that I participated in school. In Winston-Salem, during my period of time, Coach Gaines was called Big House. And since I was the basketball player that was the point guard, I was called Little House. Coach Gaines' son, even though he didn't know it, was called Small House. And my daughter, who attended Winston-Salem State University, she was called Outhouse. Because she would always figure out a way to go to Coach and beg and borrow and ask for something during his tenure or during her tenure here. My other daughter attended North Carolina A&T, and again, Coach Gaines and Mrs. Gaines were like mothers and fathers to my children, as well as to many other children who went through Winston-Salem. And so for me, it's most certainly a pleasure, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here and say the few kind words that I can about Coach Gaines, and I wish him well. And I can imagine that he's upstairs right now, mapping out a strategy, dealing with the four corners, and hoping that he'll win another basketball game. Thank you very much. He was the one that stressed the importance about education. He was the one that stressed the importance about picking up the book. He was the one that said, if you can spend 2 hours on the basketball court, you can spend 2 hours reading a book.
Off the court, a significant majority of his players graduated to become professionals in various fields, from teachers to doctors to small business owners.
For me, Coach Gaines was more than just a basketball coach. He was a father figure, he was a mentor, he was a teacher, and he was a believer in young men. I've been very successful in my life, and I've been married now for 44 years. And a lot of that really for me started with observing and watching Mr. and Mrs. Gaines, both as a basketball coach, as a mentor, as a father figure, and as a teacher. And to me, they both served in those kinds of capacities. So for me, I like to thank both Mr. and Mrs. Gaines because they both were coaches. One just happened to coach on the basketball court. Mrs. Gaines coached on the court of life.